I hope you will be absolutely blessed by the content you're about to view. I would encourage you to get anyone and everyone who loves the truth above opinions of men, above tradition, above what you have been used to. Let's see the heart of the Father as we delve into matters of divorce from perspectives you likely have not heard before. Let's look at the evidence from multiple witnesses provided in the scripture and come to your own conclusions as to what you can and should believe about divorcees, marriage, and remarriage. I trust that the Lord will use the truth to set someone free to accomplish purpose and destiny while strengthening us in doing everything that is right and good. Please like, subscribe, and share. God bless you.
Red Chair Truth, we're here to tell the truth.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Red Chair Truth with Ita Udoh. My name is Margaret Obonna, and I am your host for today. Today's truth is still about God's perspective on divorce, marriage, and other related matters. This is actually the second part of this discussion. So look at the description and then you'll find a link that will take you to the first part. Stay with us. There's a lot of things you're going to learn today. We have with us Pastor Ita Udoh. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Margaret.
It's a pleasant thing to have you here.
Thank you.
In the last episode, you talked about pictures and you said that marriage is a picture, and you also mentioned that marriage is a classroom and God intends to train us using marriage. Is it okay to endure a bad marriage because of the possible training that the Lord intends to train the believer?
Absolutely. In the same way your experience in your workplace, the same way in your experience in school, same way in your experience with a church group that you're part of, the same way you have experiences in your family. All of them are meant to provide training. All of them illustrate the relationship God has with us. Marriage is just one of those places that illustrates what ought to be our relationship with God. So if you are in a workplace, what the Bible will call a field, 1 Corinthians 3 says you are God's field, you are God's building. So we are building too. Now your experiences, anyone that has built anything before, I built a 2-room property for a purpose at a time. You learn things, different stages. You think it's almost done, then there's something more. You think you've spent the majority of the money, then you discover you have to spend so much more. It's level upon level. You thought the walls was everything till you got to the decking. Then after that you thought it's over, the lintel is up and all that. You decked a part maybe to put up something. I was just putting up a tank, and then you have to put up some more blocks, and then things come up you didn't think about. Oh, if it rains, it's going to drip, it's going to go. So you need to put up some more cement blocks, one thing after another. That's a picture of our relationship with God. That you can draw a picture of marriage from that too. You are in a school. You thought you had learned everything. You did well by primary 5, primary 6, or grade 6 or 7 or 9, and then suddenly you discover that even though you were a bright student at a certain level, that there's a whole set of things you have to learn you have no clue about, and suddenly you're not so outstanding. If you are still doing well in high school, you get to your university, college, and it's all different. All of that too is a picture given to us that when God comes in helping us fulfill our destinies, He points out things and teaches you and reminds you. Do you remember when you went through this? This is just like that. Do you remember when you experienced this in your family, with your parents, with your siblings? Good. Take it like that. I tell my people, when you have an issue with your brother or sister in church, your spiritual brother or sister, think of your siblings at home. Do you de-brother them? I say, or do you de-sister them? They are still your brother, they are still your sister. You might be offended with them, but you don't throw them away. The same thing must apply. So these are the different pictures God gave us. If you join the military or you hear about the military, how do you respond to your military officer when you don't like what they're telling you to do at all? March under the rain, carry heavy burdens, and run for a mile. Why should we do this? You're doing it in case of a day in the future where you are faced with very tough circumstances. Your body and your mind, the bigger wall to break through many times is mentally. If you know, I did this in my basic training, something in you, even many years later, will say, I can do it. But if you've never done it before, you were never trained and pushed till you've done it, you think it's impossible. Now, when you add the adrenaline of a real life situation, you'll even do more. That's what the military will train you in. God uses that picture of being in the army in 2 Timothy 2 to also tell you about his relationship. So marriage, with its extremes, with its difficult, persistent challenges that go on and on, with someone you are committed to, you made a vow to, is also a picture of our relationship with Christ. The church and Christ. We are supposed to draw lessons from our marriage, like we drew from the military, like we drew from family, like we drew from business, our work, our field. A farm, if you've ever planted anything, comes with all sorts of unknown factors. It's tough, it's hard, it's sweaty, it's dirty, it's uncomfortable. But at some point, when the harvest comes in, it could be good, it could be bad, it could be terrible. You could lose, or you could have a great harvest, and so on. There could be ups and downs. They will be the same thing. Now, take all of those as God's classrooms or God's tutors, given to teach us in different ways. In the same way, marriage is given to teach.
Sir, the problem I have with this is that it is easy to endure going to school because you know that it's temporary. With working in any office, you know you can quit and nobody will think of you as a sinner. But with marriage...
Sorry, bear with me. You know you can't just quit, right?
You can just put in your resignation letter.
If it was true all over the world, people just put in their resignation letter. That's a much lesser occurrence. I don't know what percentage of people just resign. People are desperately looking for jobs. People need jobs. People are afraid of being sacked all over the world. So it's not that way.
But the idea is that this is voluntary and it's temporary. Like, it's not an endless thing. Like, and then
is it voluntary?
Okay, sir. Even if it's not voluntary, your boss is not supposed to be your lover. So you're not expecting anything from him than what he's giving you.
Good.
But your husband is supposed to be your lover.
You keep saying husband. You keep forgetting to say your spouse.
Your spouse.
Your wife is not meant to be your lover. What's she meant to be?
Sir, I feel like
your leech. She meant just suck you dry. She's not supposed to love you. We saw in the book of Titus 2 where he said women should be taught to love their husband.
Okay, yes, we agree it's the spouse. But my point is that with other things like field, farming,
schooling,
you
gave the impression that it's temporary.
Yes,
the
like it's for 6 years.
The relationship
mostly
with a piece of land is not temporary.
Okay, but the relationship with your boss, the relationship with your boss,
relationship with a boss which
you can change, like move to another boss,
which you may not be able to find an alternative to. My point is, nobody treats their job trivially. The average person does not take lightly their job. They need a source of income to pay their rent, to eat, to do all of that. We are not discussing the once in a while thing. No, it is normal that people beg for a job, are willing to take poor conditions and terms so they can have to provide for themselves. So let's stick with reality as much as we can. Why is this necessary? Because like in marriage, you shouldn't take it lightly either. You shouldn't think you can just walk away because it was uncomfortable. The same way you didn't think of walking away because your boss spoke to you rudely.
Sir, with the boss, you expect it. This is what is expected. You don't
Why
expect.
do you expect it? It's just one of God's pictures. So this is what I'm trying to say, Margaret, that people have a picture of a boss. They have a
Yes.
picture of schooling. They have a picture of these other things, a field, a building. There's also a picture that marriage provides. All of those are pictures of the Lord's relationship with his people. Marriage is one of such pictures. In all of the others, you don't treat it lightly. Neither should we treat the marriage picture lightly. If it's just one of God's pictures used to train us, note what I'm saying.
Yes.
It's used to train us, to teach us to be tough, to ignore pain, all of them. Marriage has been distorted to be the place where there ought not to be pain and all that. So people endure pain for money in the workplace, endure pain in school for the education, which will lead to a job, which will lead to money. Okay, the idol general, money, love of money. People endure pain to put up that building. They endure pain so they can plant their farm and harvest it and get profit from it. We endure pain for everything that has value in this world.
Yes.
My point is that we should expect actively to have pain in marriage and endure it. That idea that marriage is that place where there is no pain, nobody ought to cause you any pain. They should not cause you. But human beings are broken. They have issues. They tend to be dysfunctional. They come with all sorts of baggage into the marriage union. So expect it like you expected it from school, from your boss, from all of that. That is a more appropriate approach to marriage. I'll say something quickly. I have preached it for years about arranged marriages in the Bible. People met that did not know themselves, so they had to learn to love each other.
Yes.
Isaac and Rebekah, different ones. They had to learn what you call arranged marriages. In today's world, where they say we fell in love, and then you came together and went out into the world, you started with an attitude that, oh, we love each other. I have these strong emotions, for which are just chemical releases into your body, like you're taking drugs, like taking injections of dopamine. It's just being secreted into your being. Now you get married and the doses are reducing due to the heavy effects of reality. The one you admired so much when you went to a restaurant or anywhere else seems to be disappointing. Now this time you didn't meet at the restaurant and two of you went your separate ways. Bye bye till we see again. All the warms and fuzzies. This time you went home together. In the car, your spouse did something they like doing that you don't like, or they got home and then took off their shoes or wore in muddy shoes or did something annoying, something you think shouldn't be done, you absolutely believe shouldn't be done, and they, having grown up doing that so many times, they wonder, what's the big deal? Accept me the way I am. And the worms and fuzzies fly right out the window. When you pour in a dose of real life on top of doses of dopamine, it tends to neutralize it. If you met yourselves newly and knowing that both of you don't know each other before you just met around your wedding, you entered the marriage knowing that we didn't have all these feelings for each other ahead of time. But we are going to work on it. I'm going to develop this for him and he's going to develop it for me. And then gradually, and whatever you attain, you feel glad, we got this, we achieved this, you grow in it. So modern marriage is actually much more painful. It's less successful than arranged marriages. Arranged marriages throughout history were more long-term than modern marriages, where you have the worms and fuzzies. Both of you are basically on drugs for this long period till you exchange rings, and then you hope that your drug supplier will always be excellent, and they never can be. They will fail you, guaranteed. So that leads to a sense of disappointment. The greatest reason for divorces is disappointment. Again, why has nobody divorced their very annoying younger brother who's a grown man now but still very annoying? Why haven't they gotten rid of their mother who has issues in one way or the other, including maybe she drinks hidden? Why have they not cursed their fathers who have betrayed the family in different ways. How come many people can bear a lot of things but can't bear it with their spouse, who ought to be the closest person on earth? Because there's a wrong mindset, and that mindset is what I'm saying, that if you remember, this was one of God's pictures teaching all of us that we are in a battle, equipping us to be tough and hard and able to take on Satan. Some of the most powerful servants of God, warriors for God, and by servants I don't mean people that are necessarily on TV or anything preaching, have a pulpit. I mean people that serve God in some capacity, some in prayer, some in service to people, in outreach and all that. Some of the most outstanding ones are people who have had very difficult experiences in their marriages, who fought, who won, who stayed at it, who said, you know what, Satan, you won't win here. I'm going to take blows, but I'm going to give blows back. Not to my spouse, not flesh and blood, like we discussed the other time, but to the enemy. I'm not going to let you exalt over me. Okay, so these are the realities of marriage. Marriage should not be categorized too differently from God's other pictures. The same way you don't expect hugs and kisses from your boss, but you keep serving him. That's how you ought to serve your spouse. A man ought to serve his wife, even when she's very annoying in different ways. You should keep serving her with the mindset that, well, this is how it is. I didn't slap my boss and walk away. I did not burn my field when the crop came up poor. I didn't pour chemicals, acid on it and destroy everything and give it away and tell a passerby, you want it? Take it. I didn't tear down my building project when the building kept gobbling up money, or issues came up. I had to break down some parts and restart. In all of them, I didn't burn down or burn the bridges and destroy it. So it should be with marriage.
So this feels like going into marriage with a pessimistic mindset.
I am an optimist naturally, but the beauty of pessimism I found out is that they are constantly surprised positively. The optimist has lots of surprises, but they are negative. The pessimist expected the worst and it was much better. Oh wow, it didn't rain. What a nice wedding occasion. I really expected it to rain. I carried an umbrella, this, that, but thank God I didn't have to use it. The optimist said nothing bad will happen, came back drenched.
So in other words, are you encouraging
Pessimism?
Yes.
You're asking the optimist? I found out as a leader, I sit there in meetings with optimists and pessimists. You get the best results by aligning the two sides talk. So again, too much hiding the head in the sand. Too many people, you don't want to face reality. Reality is that half of the time the pessimists are right, the other half the optimists are right. So enter marriage with a massive dose of pessimism while pressing for the best, and you will be gladly surprised that it's not as bad as you thought. But when you enter in with the fairy tale stories, happily ever after, then you'll be painfully shocked. Be the pessimist in marriage. Why? It involves another person that you can't control.
Yeah.
The same thing, be a pessimist when you start that building project. Don't pour in all your money and say, no, once I have this amount, that will be enough for all the cost. That might not be up to half of all the cost. Go in there with a mindset. When you start farming, don't go with the mindset, I'm going to visit the farm 3 times. After that is harvest. Go with the mindset that I'm sure I'll have to come to this farm 120 days. And you may go for only 80 days. And you have a good harvest. Do you understand? Go into the school, the mindset that, hey, if it's a child you're sending, son, daughter, it's going to be tough. School is horrible. When I was in school, God help you, I'm sure yours won't be as bad as mine, but mine, this happened and that happened and this happened. And he'll be grateful for having nothing compared to the torment and torture that you told him about. My whole point is, it is better to prepare people for a tough life. Then whatever they experience, they'll be grateful. I, growing up as a Christian, read my Bible. I've read stories, lots of stories about Christians who paid the ultimate price with their lives or went through all sorts of ordeals. And I think about it and I act like God might put me through this. And for every day he doesn't put me through it, I am grateful. I'm a grateful Christian because I keep thinking about the Christians in communist countries. I read Tortured for Christ when I was around, I don't know, a young teen, if I was even a teenager yet. When you've read those things, when you've heard about what the price people have paid for their faith, and you don't go through anything near it, you become grateful. But when you are an entitled brat of God, one whose mindset is, I deserve this, I deserve this, I deserve this, you're constantly ungrateful. Marriage should be entered with a drum of reality. Just you can link a siphon and just be sipping it consistently long before your marriage. Read all the horror stories. Do not hide your head in the sand, as many have done. When you get into marriage and things happen, you'll be much tougher, much stronger, and your chances of undergoing a divorce are much less, because your expectations have not been crushed. You didn't even expect this much. Now, no matter how much you're realistic, you still go through pain. I had a good part of the mindset I had many years ago when I married about 15, 16 years ago. But in the marriage, when I go through things, I still, at a time, especially years ago, it was still extremely painful. However, divorce has never been an option, because in my mind, no matter what I go through, you're hearing stories that are a million times worse than whatever you experience. A child expects he's going to be the smartest child in class. Throughout, when he falls behind even by one level or two, he takes the second position or third position, and he suddenly feels he doesn't have worth. Now, you challenging him to be the first is not wrong, but giving the impression that anything less than the best is unacceptable is false. That's what many people do in marriage. So they set themselves up for failure. Again, the high failure rate is due to that. If you enter marriage with the mindset that your spouse will shock you and cause you pain and do all sorts of strange things, and won't do it once or twice, or will do it once or twice, apologize profusely, and do it a million more times, and you're meant to keep living with them, if you understand that not all things, I'm not giving a blanket statement that every single thing your spouse does, you should live with it. I'm not saying you should stay till your spouse stabs you, you keep waking up and they're holding a knife running after you. No, I would ask you to move away and be elsewhere, or report it to appropriate authorities. But that's completely different from saying that you didn't expect any of this. I don't like the way you act. You don't seem affectionate. If he doesn't seem affectionate, or she doesn't, because many times we act as though it's only the men. Very many women are far, again, more shocking than we would care to know. That she doesn't seem affectionate. Okay, did you marry a wife or you wanted a bundle of affection? What did you want? Now, I know you like your spouse to be very affectionate. Everybody does. Good. People love pizza too. Some people like roast chicken. Some people like roast turkey, and they like to eat it every day. But do they eat it every day? Do they commit suicide because they can't eat it every day? So it is with a spouse. I found out the best marriages are old marriages. The best. But how do people think? They think it's the new marriages that are the best. Then they compare their marriage at the beginning to their marriage later. See, dopamine. They were on drugs. If you had the mindset that the scriptures give, that the end of a thing is better than its beginning. All right. So I'm happy. I'm happier with my wife. My wife can be displeased with me and I with her over something. We can have a slight disagreement, an argument, a quarrel, quiet or loud. And the next minute we are still talking, we're still eating together, we're still doing all of that. As opposed to the person who walks on eggshells. If we have the slightest disagreement, it means we are no more in love. No. So wise people do not give room for divorce in their mindsets, because they understand that they are living with a human being who will act like a human being. Okay. Oh, there you are, being human again. Whatever. Humans are tough. Yes, they are tough. Okay, let's keep walking. That's the idea, as opposed to the false notion that, we are not supposed to have any problems. You're supposed to always be sweet. You that want someone to be sweet all the time, are you sweet all the time? Or half of the time? Or even 3/4 of the time? You as bitter as bitter leaf?
Some marriage is supposed to be good.
The purpose of this interview, amongst other things, is to wake up people that are asleep or in a stupor. What does the Bible say? Marriage should be honored by all. What were you saying? It's sweet. It's hugs and kisses all the time.
Sometimes, most of the times.
Is it when the woman is pushing out the baby? Is it when the man is fighting, those days, a war, killing the enemy and stripping him of his gold and silver after he just escaped death by a hair's breadth? Which part of marriage is supposed to be sweet all the time? The parts of marriage that are sweet is that you're at home with your spouse. You can sit next to them, talk with them. You're in bed together, have times of intimacy. You talk about their children. You remember things, nostalgia. You are mushy about things. Okay, but how much time is that? Because the majority of the time of a normal person's life is involved with hard work, reality, challenges, difficulties, obstacles.
Yeah.
There's sickness, there's pain, there's death of loved ones, there's every kind of thing. So how and when did marriage ever agree from Genesis to Revelation to be a place for sweetness? Majority of the time it's not there.